to see you here. I'm Bible class Betty, and I'm going to teach you about the book of Joshua. Oh, our first lesson today will be taken from Joshua chapters 1 and 2. This is as Joshua and the people of Israel are preparing to enter the promised land. Oh, finally, I'm very excited, and I'm glad you're here for the journey. Well, I think before we get started, we want to make sure you're familiar with some key words. The Bible sometimes uses some big words that you're not familiar with, or sometimes those words meant different things back in Bible times. So let's make sure you know these terms. The first one we're looking at is the word courageous. Do you know courageous? Courageous is having courage or being brave. See, that wasn't too hard. Our next word is going to be the word devote. Now, devote is set apart for a special purpose or dedicated. It's what you love. Now, how about the word dismay? Dismay can be, a sudden disappointment or worry. What dismay he had at the coffee spilled all over his desk. How about the word flax? That's not one you hear very often. Flax is a slender plant. It's got blue flowers, but mostly it is used to make linen, which is a type of clothing. And sometimes the oil from the flaxseed can be used in feeding livestock. Flax. Oh, our next word is guiltless. I bet you can figure this one out. Less would be without guilt. Guiltless would be innocent. Good job. Okay, inhabitant. Well, inhabitants are a person would be people who occupy a particular place regularly. It's where they live. It's the people that live in a certain area. Next is the word inherit. Do you know inherit? Why, that would be to receive money or legal right to property after someone's death. It's what you inherit when they pass away. Now it becomes yours. Our next word is the word lodge. Lodge is usually a temporary quarter where you live. Think of it as like where you're camping out. Now, sometimes it could be for a short period of time, and others, why, you might need to stay there for a while. Lodge. Our next word is meditate. Why, meditate is to spend time in quiet reflection, to ponder, to think something through. That's the word meditate. Oh, midst. We don't use that one very often. Midst is simply in the middle. You see that blue ball? It's in the midst of the two stuffed animals. Oath. An oath would be a promise that you make in God's name. Why, it's a solemn promise. And an oath has a very severe consequences. It says that you understand that you are inviting God's consequences in if you break this promise. It's very serious. Our next is to possess. Possess is to, take possession of. It doesn't look like this man is taking possession of that painting the right way. Why, it's to seize or to take control of into your own possession. Possess. Oh, our next word, that's the word prostitute. Prostitute can mean several different things, but generally it's devoting yourself or your motives to corrupt purposes. You're using your talents for an unworthy use. Why? This man is using his talents to, it looks like he's stealing money. He's prostituting himself into an unworthy cause by stealing money. Prostitute. Our next word is the word provision. Provision, if you look at it, kind of looks like the word provide. A provision would be a stock of materials like food or supplies you might need to provide for your family. Provision. How about the word pursue? Think of it like the word, well, chase, to follow in order to catch up or to seize. That gentleman on our screen, why, he's pursuing money. The next word we have is a rebel. Oh, I bet you know rebel. A rebel would be opposing the taking arms against a government or a ruler. Rebel. Good job. Scarlet. Scarlet. Why, that's an easy one. That's simply a color. It's bright red. You can remember that. Oh, next we have the word territory. Territory would be an assigned area. We kind of have territories in America. We call them states. They're designated areas where people live. Oh, tread. We're going to see the word tread and trot a lot. So let's make sure we know what that means. It would be to step or to walk on or, well, over. Tread. Valor. Oh, that's a nice word. Valor would be a strength of mind or spirit that enables a person to face danger. Why, the soldier was so brave, he received the Medal of Valor. Valor. Well, I think the next thing we should do before we study the book of Joshua is to understand exactly where in history this book takes place. Well, remember Jacob? He had the 12 sons. The sons of Jacob began as 12 brothers, and they produced many generations until that family numbered over 2.5 million people. They lived in Egypt because of that severe 7-year plague, during which the only food available was in Egypt's storehouses. Well, time passes, and the Pharaoh of Egypt enslaved the entire nation of Israel. Oh, well, God raised up a man, Moses, to rescue his people. Moses was brought up in royalty in Pharaoh's court. He learned the methods of war. Later, he spent 40 years in the desert, learning about life in the wild. With God's help, Moses would lead the people of Israel out of Egypt. And just before entering the promised land, Moses died. He was the only leader the people of Israel had ever known. Joshua's leadership over Israel was followed by the rule of judges. Oh, there were chaos, there was wars, and in the middle of all this chaos and all these wars came the time of Ruth. She was a woman of noble character. Now, what is the book of Joshua about? Well, Joshua begins with Israel conquering and possessing the land of Canaan. Why, the first half of the book describes Israel's 7-year war with idol worshiping nations that lived around them. Like any good general, Joshua led his army in a campaign, winning the southern and northern halves. In the later chapters, of the book of Joshua, we find that the leader is dividing the new land among the families of Israel. But before his death, Joshua told the people to hold fast to God and to hold fast to God's ways if they wanted to have success. Well, what is the theme in Joshua? Well, one of the main themes that's repeated in Joshua is that for the Israelites to experience success, they have to obey God. Victory always came when God's people followed God's instructions. Another truth in Joshua is that God is faithful. God could be trusted to fulfill every promise he made to Israel. And we also see that Joshua was a man of godly character. He was a good leader. Well, when we finished Deuteronomy, Deuteronomy ended with a eulogy of the former leader, Moses. Joshua declared Moses to be a prophet unlike any that the people had ever known. He was a leader with whom God chose to speak with face to face. His leadership was unsurpassed, and he succeeded in defeating the most powerful nation of the time, Egypt, even at an age of 120. Moses was still strong. He still had the sight of a younger man. Oh, but the time had come for Moses to die. However, unlike any other man, Moses wasn't buried with his family. Why, he wasn't buried with a great monument or statue over his tomb. To honor him, God himself buried Moses opposite the valley of Beth Peor in Moab. No one would ever know exactly where Moses had been buried. Well, I think now it's time for you to open up your Bibles to the book of Joshua. Let's make sure you know where Joshua is. Let's see. The Old Testament starts with Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua. So let's look at Joshua chapter 1. And it begins. God commissions. God assigns or picks Joshua. Now, if you look at my screen, you see that there's words in blue. If it's a word in blue, that means it's a person. Oh, but there's also words in green. Those words in green, why, those are cities or places. And then see all those words that are in red? If it's words in red, that means God himself is speaking. Now, at other times, we'll see people speaking and it'll be yellow highlighted, but that means it wasn't God. Words in red are God's words. So let's start in verse 1. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, the son of Nun. So if you need to know who Joshua's dad was, his name was Nun. Moses' assistant. Now we have God speaking. Moses, my servant is dead. Now therefore arise, go over to this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving them, to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your feet will tread upon, step on, I have given to you, just as I promised Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Oppose you. Just as I was with Moses, I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. The first thing we notice in this verse, in verse 1, is that the Lord appointed Joshua. We also see that Joshua was a qualified leader for this new position. After all, he had been Moses' assistant. 40 years ago, the Israelites were promised the land of Canaan. When Moses received God's law on Sinai, remember the 10 Commandments? Israel acted foolishly. Oh, remember that golden calf? Oh, they had to wander around in the desert for 40 years while the disbelieving generation died off. Now, this offer was being made to a new generation. In verse 4, the boundaries are established. And verse 5, the Lord promises he would be with Joshua just as he had been with Moses. Now, verse 6, be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land I swore to their fathers to give to them. Only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do according to all that the law of Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn away from it from the right or to the left, that you may have good success. Oh, see that little A after success? If we look down at the footnotes, A means act wisely. Okay, so to have success, we're going to need to act wisely. And how do we act wisely? By following God's commands. Okay, let's keep going. Have good success wherever you go. Verse 8. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. And do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Two things that stand out are that the Lord wanted Joshua to be strong and courageous. And following the book of the law, the Lord revealed that Joshua, that all his accomplishments as a leader would not depend on Joshua's natural strengths, but would be a direct result of the obedience to God. Joshua assumes command. Joshua becomes the leader. And Joshua commanded the officers of the people, pass through the midst or the middle of the camp and command the people, prepare your provisions, for within 3 days you are going to pass over the Jordan and take possession of the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess. Joshua became the new leader, and in turn, he passed the commands he'd received from the Lord. The army didn't head out immediately, but was given 3 days to get ready. It was time to claim the promised land from the Lord and to take possession of the land. Joshua 1:12 through 15. And the Reubenites, that's one of the tribes. The Gadites, that's another one. And the half tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said, remember, this is in yellow. This is Joshua talking. Remember the word that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, saying, the Lord your God is providing you a place to rest, and he will give you this land. Your wives, your little ones, your livestock shall remain in the land that Moses gave you beyond the Jordan. But all the men of valor, the fighting men, among you shall pass over armed before your brothers, and they shall help them, until the Lord gives rest to your brothers as he has given to you. And they also take possession of the land that the Lord your God is giving to them. Then you shall return to the land of your possession, and you shall possess it. The land that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you is beyond the Jordan toward the sunrise. So the request had been made during the days of Moses for the 2.5 of the 12 tribes to settle east of the bank of the Jordan River. Part of the agreement had been for those 2.5 tribes to continue fighting on the west side of the Jordan for their brothers. Joshua reminded them of this agreement. So, once the land on the east side of the Jordan had been obtained, they would move forward in battle position to take the land west of the Jordan. And those 2.5 tribes, answered Joshua, "All that you have commanded us, we will do. Wherever you send us, we will go. Just like we obeyed Moses in all things, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your commandments and disobeys your word, whatever you command him shall be put to death. Only be strong and courageous." So they answered Joshua back with a resounding, "We'll do everything you command us." They were entirely behind Joshua. Why, they even offered him their best wishes. "May God be with you just like he was with Moses." Now, I do think that's a little funny that, "Oh, just like we obeyed Moses in all things, we will obey you." Why, I didn't think they obeyed Moses in all things. Do you? Well, I like to end each chapter with a rhyme to help you remember where those things took place. I think it helps. So for chapter 1, here's my rhyme. Be strong and courageous. Your wandering is done. Israel prepares their provisions in Joshua 1. Do you like it? Now, let's move to chapter 2. Now, in chapter 2, we're going to see Joshua again because remember, he was Moses' assistant while he led the people in Israel through the wilderness. God selected Joshua to lead the Israelites after Moses' death. Now, we're also going to meet a character named Rahab. She's a woman, not an Israelite, who lived in that town. And she lived in the city of Jericho. Kind of one of the things that's neat about Rahab is her house was built between the city walls. So, like, she could look out her window and see one side of the wilderness out there, and she could look out the other side and see the city. Pretty neat. I wonder if that will have any impact on our story today. Oh well, the next thing we have is, we're gonna meet 2 spies. Joshua sent 2 Israelite spies across the Jordan River to spy out the land. Oh, I wonder what they'll see in that city of Jericho. Let's keep going. Read along with me. Now remember, blue is a person, green is a place. If it's in yellow, it's someone talking. And if we see things in red, that's going to be God speaking. Sometimes you'll see words that are like, in bold or dark letters. See that 2? That just reminds us that that's a number. Maybe we should know numbers, okay? Let's keep going. Rahab hides the spies. This is how we know how many spies went this time. And Joshua, the son of Nun, sent 2 men secretly from Shittim as spies, saying, "Go and view out the land, especially Jericho." And they went and came into the house of a prostitute, someone not making good use of their talents, whose name was Rahab, and they lodged there. But remember, She's not an Israelite. She wasn't bound by God's laws. And it was told to the king of Jericho. What did the king hear? Behold, men of Israel have come here tonight to search out the land. What's the king going to do? Why, verse 3 says, and the king of Jericho sent to Rahab officers. They said, bring out the men who have come to you, who entered your house, for they have come to search out the land. Well, Joshua's first act of leadership was to send out tactical spies to determine the best method of attack. Notice he sent them out on a secret mission, unlike the time when they were sent out the 12 spies. By God's providence, they found their way to the home of Rahab. She had access to information about the inner workings of the city. She also knew about the people of Israel. So let's see what happens next. Joshua 2, verse 4. But the woman, Rahab, had taken the 2 men, the spies, and hidden them. She said to the soldiers, true, the men came to me, but I didn't know where they were from. And when the city gate, was about to be closed at dark, the men went out, and I don't know where the men went. Pursue them quickly, and you might overtake them. But she had brought them, the spies, to the roof and hid them under stalks of flax that she had laid out on her roof. So the men pursued them after them all the way to the Jordan as far as the fords, and the gate was shut as soon as the pursuers had gone. So this woman of questionable character performed an astounding act of faith. She hid the 2 men, the spies. She risked her own life for the success of the Israelite spies' mission. Rahab hid the 2 spies in her own home and helped them escape. She didn't know God yet, but she acted to save his people. God moved through the hearts of the king's messengers because they followed Rahab's suggestion. They didn't force entry into her house, but they pursued the men in the direction she had indicated. Oh, this is getting exciting. Verse 8. Before the men, the 2 spies, lay down, she came up to the roof, and Rahab said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that fear of you has fallen on us, the people of Jericho, and that all the inhabitants, everyone living there in the land, have melted away before you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the 2 kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to the names of the kings, Sihon and Og, to whom you devoted to destruction. And as soon as we heard it, our hearts melted, and there was no spirit left in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in the heavens, above and on the earth beneath. Now, then please swear to me by your Lord that as I have dealt kindly with you, that you also will deal kindly with me for my father's house, and give me a sure sign that you will save alive my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and deliver our lives from death. Well, Rahab already knew a lot about Israel's history. Why, the drying up of the Red Sea and the destruction of the king of Sihon and Og. She revealed that the hearts of the people of Jericho had melted at the news of what the Lord had done for them. Rahab was absolutely astounded by and spoke so eloquently of the extraordinary deeds of the Lord and what he had done for Israel. She showed faith in God and asked him for her family to be saved. She was already risking it all for a God she barely knew. Well, think about it. The crossing the Red Sea, well, that was 40 years ago. But the people in Jericho were still talking about it. Well, it's kind of interesting that Rahab is also mentioned in the New Testament. She's mentioned 3 times for her bravery. And she isn't called Rahab the prostitute because that's how she was in the Old Testament before she knew God. In the New Testament, she's Rahab, and she's known for being brave. Only God can do that. He can change who you are. Now, verse 14, the men said to her, "Our lives for yours, even in death. And if you do not tell this business of ours, then when the Lord gives us this land, we will deal kindly and be faithfully with you." And she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was built into the city wall. So she lived inside in the wall. And she said to them, "Go into the hills. The pursuers will not encounter you, and hide there for 3 days until the pursuers have returned. Then afterward, you can go on your way." Well, there was a saying back in those days that, a life for a life was required. But this principle in verse 14 is kind of the opposite of that. If I save you, will you save me and my family? Well, Israelite spies said they would if she kept silent and didn't tell anyone in Jericho that they had been there. They would spare the lives of her and her family. In good faith, she helped them down, and she offered them parting advice from, where to go hide. For the most part, the towns in the land that God had given them were independent. They were like, city states, and their rulers were called kings. Jericho was a walled city with flat-roofed houses where they could store their grains or stalks could be placed for drying out. There were homes that were located in that space between the inner walled city. So that's where Rahab's house just happened to be. I think it's also interesting that Rahab's house would have been located in the western part of the wall because it faced the only mountain region and about a half a mile away from the city. I bet they could sneak away quickly. Now, verse 17, the men, the 2 spies, said to her, "We will be guiltless with respect to this oath," the special promise of yours, "that you have made us swear. Behold, when we come into the land, you shall tie this scarlet, red cord in the window through which you let us down, and you shall gather to your house your father, your mother, your brothers, all your father's household. Then, if anyone goes out the doors of your house into the streets, his blood will be on his own head. We shall be guiltless. But if a hand is laid on anyone who is with you in this house, his blood shall be on our heads. But if you tell this business of ours, then we shall be guiltless in respect to this oath, this promise that you have made us swear." And she said, "According to your words, let it be so." And then she sent them away, and they departed, and she tied that red cord in her window. The spies had answered Rahab's plea for her life and her family by offering an oath with three conditions. The whole family has to stay in Rahab's house. Why, that red cord needed to be in the window, and their visit needed to be kept a secret. Oh, this is getting so exciting. What is going to happen next? Let's see. They departed, the spies, and went into the hills and remained there for 3 days until the pursuers returned. And the pursuers had searched all the way and found nothing. Then the two men returned to Joshua, and they came down from the hills, passed over, and came to Joshua, the son of Nun. And they told him all the things that had happened. And they said to Joshua, "Truly, the Lord has given us this land into our hands." And all the inhabitants of the land, their hearts are melting away with fear because of us. Well, not exactly because of him, but because of what God had done. The spies had followed Rahab's advice and returned safely to Joshua, telling him that God would deliver the land and that the current inhabitants, the people living in Jericho, would run away scared. Oh, I hope that's what happens. Oh, we're at the end of chapter 2. That means we won't know what happens until we get to chapter 3. Well, let's just make sure we know everything that happened in chapters 1 and 2. Chapter 1 began with Moses' death, and the appointment of Joshua as the new leader of Israel. The author intentionally presents Joshua as the new Moses. Like his predecessor, Joshua calls the people to obey the terms of the covenant that Israel was given to Israel on Mount Sinai, which is found in the Torah. In chapter 2, Joshua sent spies into the land as Moses had in Numbers 13 and 14. Things go much better this time, and even some of the Canaanites, such as Rahab, turned out to follow the God of Israel. Oh, the book of Joshua is the first book of history in the Bible. And while it does teach us a lot about history, of course, its main job is to teach us about God. Oh, it teaches us who He is, what He's doing, and how much He loves His children. Well, one more thing I like to do is remember those rhymes. We need one for chapter 2. So here we go. Are you ready? Spies are sent out in Joshua 2, a promise to Rahab for her rescue. Now remember, chapter 2 is just the promise for her rescue. We'll see her rescued a little later. Well, I think it's fun to find some cartoons. A lot of really creative people have made some funny drawings about the things in the Bible, and I hope you find them funny too. It's just simple things that I think sometimes when we laugh and giggle along with them, it helps us remember them better. Let's look at the first one. It's got a picture of Moses, and I think that's supposed to be Joshua. "I will not be your leader anymore. I'm 120 years old, and Joshua, the son of Nun, will lead you." Howdy, y'all. The announcement of a new era. I don't think that Joshua said howdy, y'all. Oh, look! It's two men at a gravestone, but look at the funny shape of that gravestone. One guy says, "Yep, this is Moses' grave, all right." Do you see how that gravestone is shaped like the 2 tablets from the 10 Commandments? But I also remember that we read, "No one knows where Moses was buried." But that's funny. Our next one is, "Oh dear, this Israelite is carrying a giant chandelier." Do you think you'd want to carry that for 40 years? Let's see what it says. "You might want to reconsider that chandelier. We don't know how long this wilderness thing will take." I think he should leave it behind. Egypt may have given Israel a lot of their gold earrings and things, but I don't remember reading about a chandelier. Do you? Oh, this is supposed to be Rahab. She says, "Joshua, please remember me as Rahab, not Rahab the problem solver." Now remember, Rahab wasn't one of God's people, so she did things she shouldn't have. But remember, a loving God is going to mention her again in the New Testament 3 times and is going to talk about she's Rahab the brave. Only God can do that. And He can do that for you too. He can change your story. Now, if you're in my class, remember we've got our study guides, and I want you to do questions for chapters 1 and 2. And to answer those questions, you're going to need to read chapters 1 and 2 again, especially now that you know what those words mean. And then look at your chapter heading cards and make sure you know your heading cards for chapters 1 and 2. Got it? Thank you guys. This has been so much fun. I love teaching you about God and His Word, and I'll see you next time. Bye.